A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. Set in a dystopian future England, Alex is a young teenager who goes out with his droogs and wreaks havoc on the dark English countryside. They attack people, they break in, they do worse things, and one night Alex is caught and he's taken to prison. When he's in prison, he hears about the Ludovico technique, which is a treatment that prisoners can get that will get them out of prison and promises that they will never come back. This book is unique because it's written from the perspective of Alex. Alex talks in a strange sounding language called Nadsat, which is like English, but it's sprinkled in with a whole bunch of Russian kind of sounding words. And at the same time, it also has Shakespearean language with these and thous. So it's a weird combination that takes a lot of getting used to, but in my case, by the end of the book, I kind of felt like I had a sense of what things meant just from context clues. Side note, when Stanley Kubrick first looked over the book, he thought it was impossible to understand and no one would ever read it, and he didn't want to make a movie about it. Guess he changed his mind. Alex is a classic literary anti-hero. He is without a doubt a very bad person. He's constructed that way. He beats people up for the pleasure of beating people up. He breaks into people's houses just for the thrill of it. And that's what's so creepy about this book, especially the beginning when they're just breaking into people's houses, pretending to be stranded on the side of the road and needing help, and then they just go in and do terrible things to the people who live inside. At the same time, he has a love of classical music, and he has this code of ethics that you're kind of trying to understand what it is exactly, because he chastises one of his droogs for making inappropriate gestures towards a woman who's singing this classical opera, because that's not the proper thing to do. I think one of the reasons I felt intrigued by Alex as I read through the book is that he has no existential angst whatsoever. He likes to be violent, so he goes out and commits violence. He wants a drink, he goes out and gets a drink. There's no sense of questioning his place in the universe. He just is. He just does whatever he feels inclined to, and that's all reflected in this interesting narration. There's something intriguing about a narrator who's just fearless and is willing to go out and do anything. And I think another clever thing they do in the book is the narrator always refers to himself as your humble narrator. And he refers to the people reading the book as, "Oh, my brothers," like he's inviting you into his secret little club that he's telling this story to of his life. So the things that are going in the book's favor, one is the interesting main character, and two is the plot structure. I love the way the plot unfolds, especially after he gets out of prison and he can't commit any violence whatsoever. And if he does, he starts feeling sick, and so he has to make himself feel better by saying only the nicest possible things. And so he just gets stepped on, and he can't do anything about it. And then all these things from his past start coming back. They're weaved back into the plot of the story, and just I love it. It's brilliant. The third thing that goes in favor of this book is the underlying questions that it asks. And I put this book in the same category as 1984 or A Brave New World. All three of these books ask very important questions about the state and morality. What is the state's role in encouraging morality, and in what ways can the state go too far? Like, what if it were possible for the government to fix people's inclinations so that they weren't inclined to do bad things anymore? It can almost sound like a great breakthrough, but you feel like something crucial has been violated in the process, and that's what this book is all about. I also love in this book how they talk about agency, because the idea with the Ludovico treatment is that you're taking away a person's agency to commit wrong. But as one of the characters in the book says, when a man can't choose, he ceases to be a man. Also in the book, they ask the question, does God want goodness, or does he want the choice of goodness? Which I think are just great lines, interesting things to think about. Now, it's hard to talk about the book without also talking about the movie, because the movie is a classic of Kubrick's. It's an interesting movie that has shots that I absolutely love, and at the same time, it has shots that I absolutely think are ridiculous. The main one that comes to mind is the fight scene between Alex and the rival gangs. It's like they went to an old abandoned theater, and then they went to Goodwill, and they got a bunch of rags and wigs and stuff, and they just put them on some actors and said, here's a bunch of garbage, now go fight, and we'll put a bunch of cameras everywhere, and then we'll edit something together. It looks absurd, I think. On the other hand, that scene where they're walking by the water, like that's iconic at this point. It's brilliant Kubrick. So I think, in a way, the movie is the best and worst of Kubrick for me. The real issue that I have with the movie, though, is it doesn't have the last chapter. When the book was published in the US, they also omitted the last chapter, which I like it so much better with the last chapter intact. In the US version and in the Kubrick version, it takes without the last chapter, it ends with him nearly falling to his death, and then the state comes in and apologizes for the Ludovico treatment and says, we'll take care of you, don't worry. And Alex realizes that he isn't made sick by violence anymore, so he can go back to doing all the things he used to do. So that's it, that's the end. And then you're left with this note of, oh boy, here we go again. He's out on the town, this bad kid. But the book keeps going. And so with the book, he goes back to where he left off, and he's with a new set of droogs, but he's just not interested in any of it anymore. And then he goes to this place where he runs into Pete, one of his old droogs, and Pete's married, and he's settled down, and he's grown out of it. And Alex realizes that that's what he wants too. And it's like this revelation that comes to him, like that's how things should be. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. I can't recommend it to everyone because there is sex and violence in it. A lot of it is glossed over because he's speaking in the weird Natsat language, so it kind of has a blurring effect. You don't really get the full sense of what's going on. You just get a hint of what's happening, which is good. I'm going to give this book 4.5 stars. Yes, there it was. Youth must go. Ah, yes, but youth is only being, in a way, like it might be an animal. No, it is not just being an animal so much as being like one of these Malenki toys you vidi being sold in the streets, like little chelovics made out of tin with a spring inside and then a winding handle on the outside, and you wind it up and gur, and off it titties like walking, like, oh my brothers. But it iddies in a straight line and bangs straight into things, bang, bang, and it can't help what it's doing. Being young is being like one of these lanky machines. I apologize, I don't have an English accent.